In our last session, we managed to go to one combination for retained earnings, but unfortunately we didn't complete because of system could not update. So in today's session, we'll go and see whether we can be able to finalize creation of our primary ledger through providing retained earnings. So I'll log in the system. Navigate to general ledger. There's a general ledger responsibility. Setup financials. We agreed before going directly to accounting setup manager, we open Java forms so that we can probably use it or use them later. So we are here, we are defining our primary ledger. We have done this, we gave an explanation or an introduction or kind of a definition of accounting setup manager. So this one is done. So we are under creating primary ledger. And once we open the forms, can close them and now navigate again to the accounting setup manager. So setup, financials, spreadsheet, key, financials, accounting setup manager, not spreadsheet. So here we click the accounting setups. This is one of the features that opens on the web page and not on the Java forms. So if we select, you can select by pressing enter on your keyboard or by selecting this or clicking this open button here. So the system will navigate to web page, and this is
to be sharing a different screen.
sorry.
I'm stuck on the Excel part of the screen, so it seems you're projecting a different part of the screen, which I'm not able to see.
Unfortunately, sorry for that. So let me go back. Can close this. For the purpose of understanding the navigation, we're talking about for you to navigate to accounting setup manager. Here, for you to be able to define the primary ledger. And here down, I think we had provided that navigation, which is under the general ledger application. And the navigation is setup, financials, accounting setup manager, accounting setup. So setup, financials, accounting setup manager, accounting setup. So we said we have 3 steps: creating the accounting structure, defining accounting options, and completing accounting setup. So what we have already done by yesterday is creating the accounting structure, where we provided the primary ledger name, the chart of accounts name, the accounting calendar, and accounting methods. That is for the sub-ledger accounting methods. So here what we are supposed to do is to query our already created accounting structure, of which is not complete, it is in progress. So we are supposed to see it with this kind of status, which is in progress. So what you can do here is to provide the initials of the name of the primary ledger or the ledger, and you click on go to query that ledger or that accounting structure. Accounting structure is nothing but that combination of those 4 C's and an additional name of the ledger. So from there you can be able to, if for instance I type TAD, already the system has memory that I had already provided it. So I can just select and click on go. So the system will pull the structure or the ledger, but it's not complete. You can see the status here, it's saying it is in progress. And we have another option here for updating the accounting option. So this is what we'll use. So already we have the name and the type, and it's showing its associated ledger. So this is how our ledger will continue reading even when we complete it. So what you're supposed to do here is to click on the update accounting options. Click on it. And here you land into a page where you can select different accounting options. So there are so many accounting options you can provide based on the need of the client and how the client wants to conduct their business. So in our case, we are still in the process of building our primary ledger. And in this case, we are supposed to come and click on update. We have the last time it was updated, you can see it's showing it's yesterday. The user which we have logged in with, and also the status that we have just seen once we query once we queried the ledger that it is in the progress. So we have also an icon for or a button for update, and this is where you should click to update your primary ledger. So in this case, we'll click on this update. And we have been taken to a page whereby I was talking yesterday about the ledger name, which is the one that we provided, which is TAD primary ledger. Again, the system is providing a short name, and this short name is coming from the ledger name, but the system is adding some other characters, or can call it code. So this code is system generated and assigned to the short name of the primary ledger. This is what will always be happening when you are defining a primary ledger. So the system usually pick the part of the ledger name and assign it some code, that is ledger code, that is the number for this ledger in the system. It is assigned to this number, and also it assign it to the currency that we assigned or that we gave it, so for the purpose of functionality. So this is the functional currency of this ledger. Okay, again we can see there is a field for currency here, which it is picking as well from where we provided. And then there is chart of accounts. Chart of accounts is nothing else than rather than what we have defined, and we selected it. Okay, again it has the accounting calendar. So this is the accounting calendar that we defined, and with the accounting calendar there is the the period type. Period type is assigned to this accounting calendar in time of creation or in time of defining this accounting calendar. These are things that we have done, so I'm just doing a recap for you to remember, and also for good understanding. It's not something new to you. Then on the same line of accounting calendar, we have the first ever open period. So we provided our period to be 1st of July to 31st of June, to 30th of June coming year. So we start on the middle of the year, and our calendar ends at the middle of the year. So it's 1st of July to 30th of June next year. That's our financial year, or government financial year in our country, Kenya. Again, the system has to pick number of future enterable periods. So this is the period that you can be able to enter. Meaning, I talked about periods whereby they control entering and not entering of transactions. So if the period is open, you can be able to enter transaction or book transaction in that period. So in this case, it's showing that you can be able to, it's only one period that you can be able to enter transaction. Again, we provided the subledger accounting method. This is also flowing from what we provided. Okay. And of course, you can always change. You see here, you can always change as you wish. Then the system is picking the journal entry language. This is, I'm talking about the mandatory fields, which is American English. So once you confirm that these details are okay, based on what you have defined, what you have selected when defining the structure, accounting structure, that is the selecting the forces, you can go ahead and say next. Okay, click on this next. And when you click on next, you come to another field whereby you're supposed to add more ledger options, and that is the year-end processing. One of it is or the item under the year-end processing is mandatory, and it's mandatory because once you closing the year, you have to tell the ledger where to post the balances. Okay, in terms of earnings and maybe gains and losses, they have to be posted in a certain account. That is for the purpose of seeing how the company has performed or the business has performed. So retained earnings, it is a mandatory account that you have to provide when it comes to defining the ledger option. Okay, and if you can remember, when I was defining the not primary ledger, but the chart of accounts, I provided or defined a retained earnings account. Despite the fact that we can have so many other accounts or type of accounts, you find like I defined this specifically because I knew we'll need it to be provided here for us to be able to complete the primary ledger. So in this case, it is the only mandatory item that we are supposed to provide in this page, and others doesn't mean they are not required, but it depends now on the nature of the business, which probably we might look at them later. But in this case, for the purpose of understanding how to define the primary ledger, just know that we have to provide the retained earnings account combination. So what we did yesterday, we couldn't be able to do it simply because of something that was active, or probably the system takes some time to activate it, and that was this feature, which is of create. So what happens is that you will be having different way of providing the code combination, and code combination I explained very well. It's how you select different codes per segment based on the transaction that you are booking. So what happens is that we have a control whereby you may disable the user to just use any code combination if you don't want to have rubbish to be deposited or to be booked in your system. Because to avoid some errors, you might find there are users who are not keen and they will just post transaction in probably any account and without even checking whether that account is it's correct or no. And that's why you usually find later as we continue learning, we usually have scenarios of maker checker. We have someone who is creating probably a transaction and another who is counter checking and validating and doing something we call approval. So in this case, the system has the capability to disable this combination. Like you can't just go and create any account from from whichever application maybe you are using. For instance, if you are in purchasing, if you're using a user who is in purchasing, a user who is in finance, a user who is in fixed asset, they can't just go and choose a combination that they think they want. It has to be probably agreed that it has to be, or it has already been enabled or created. So if it is not created, the system will tell you you need to use an already existing combination. Those are some of the things you will come to see later in the system. But now, for yesterday, this feature was not enabled. And why? Because it was controlled from here. Let me show you. Under financials, under flex fields, key segments. You see this feature we call allow dynamic inserts. If has not been checked, the user will not be able to provide a new code combination. What do I mean? Okay, for instance, let me first of all do the code combination here and we create it. You see what I mean? Okay, so for your interest of understanding, these are the segment values that we defined. Okay, so we created just a minute, trying to drag this. So we created the segments and our chart of accounts. We created these 6 segments, and from my understanding, here they are. This is what we defined. Okay, I hope you have gone through those videos for those who have not been in the sessions, in the live sessions. So we defined these segments, and they are exactly the way we defined here, from the company all the way to future 2. Okay, so under these segments, we also went ahead and defined the segment values. So those segments values are the ones that we select here for the purpose of code combination, just like the way I explained some time back. And where is that training? Oh, it's in another document. But I explained about how we combine the codes when it comes to, here. I explained about how we combined these codes, which are segment values under segments. So that's nothing else but what now we are seeing right now. So we have already started to use the segment values, but we will not be referring them to segment values. We'll be calling them the code. So if you hear me talking about code combination or account combination, just know that I'm referring to something of the sort. So for your interest, maybe you are seeing this for the first time. If you want now to select the company segment value, you can click, if you know it, you can type the code. If you remember the code, you see you'll find users have worked with this code up there now into their fingertips. So and now they will be just typing them instead of doing all the process of searching. But as a new person who you have no idea which code is sitting there, you need to go and click on this search engine. Okay. Once you click on the search engine, the system will open the window for search. Okay. Without providing anything here, okay, you can provide maybe the description or the you select what you want to. The idea here is to choose what you want to search by. You can search by the company name or the description. So instead, and provide the company name or description in this field, then click on go. If you want and you have an idea of the specific code you want to search or to query. But if you don't have any idea, you can just click on go. Once you click on go, the system will, pull all the existing segments, values that are in that segment. So we can choose whichever we want, provided under the account we will choose the retained earning account. So we can choose any code here. You can choose even the fourth one, because all these have equal or same characteristics. So you can select any of the company here, but when it comes to, or even in the cost center, you can select any cost center. Even in projects, those are the only mandatory. Feature 1 and feature 2, I removed the mandatory, feature. So what you're supposed to do is just to maybe default it, or you can even leave it like that. But for the account, you have to provide the retained earning or retained earnings account that we defined. I hope that one is clear. So in this case, allow me to select company 1, that is 01. Then under cost center, click on go to see all the cost centers that we defined. And here they are. You can select maybe inventory. Okay. Then under accounts, you must be having an account under this. Click on this, go. And you can see we defined retained earnings. All these others are, yes, they are okay. You will use them in other transactions based on the nature of the account. But when it comes to the retained earnings, we need it in, first thing we need it in this code combination. In other words, you'll find it's the first code combination that you'll use with, or you'll be able to create. So the other one is project. Click on go and choose any. Okay. In feature 1 and feature 2, they are not mandatory, so it's not necessary that you have to provide. I think we defined only one default. It's not even available. I think we didn't define. So being like that, you can just go ahead and first thing you can search. That's why we have this button here. You might find there is someone who has already created this code combination. So that's why the option for searching is here. So you click on search. And if there is any such code existing, it will populate here down. Okay. But if there isn't, you can go ahead and create. So yesterday, this function of creation was not there. So we have created our first code combination, and this is how it is. Okay. And we can go ahead and now either use this button and click on select. Okay. And we can have quick select. If you click the quick select button, it will, you don't need to come and select again here. but if you click on this select button, you will come and select it again here. So this is just but a shortcut. If you click on that, now we have our code combination, and this is how our code combination will be looking. Is there any question in code combination? So you see all these areas whereby we are talking about suspense account, rounding difference tracking account. If you click on this search engine, now our segment or our chart of accounts will be populating. Everywhere you will be finding that there is an account combination that is required. Because this is our chart of accounts, it will always be displaying all these segments that we defined. So it is important to know that. So for instance, if there is no any, for instance, we have not defined the suspense account. So you are supposed to go under the account segment, you define the segment value of suspense account so that you can come and be able to select it here. I hope that one is clear. That is just by the way for it's just a lookup for the creation of the segment values. But now we'll have to give them the specific names so that you can be able to use them where they are required. With that, we don't have any other mandatory field. If there's no question, you click on next. Okay. So here you'll find also we don't have mandatory field, but we have information we'll come to use. Example, when we'll be learning about budget, we'll come and enable budget control here, and also probably we enable require budget journals. Okay. So this is for another level of class. That's why I was telling you this accounting setup manager or accounting setup function, we'll visit it regularly when we are learning about financials. Then because there is nothing mandatory, you click on next. Okay. And now here you are being taken on the review page. Here you're supposed to review the information that you have provided. Okay. The information that you have provided here is what you are reviewing. You check on the ledger name, short ledger name, currency, chart of accounts, accounting calendar. All this is what we have been looking at. The subledger accounting method, subledger accounting owner, all this information. Okay. So whatever has been disabled, it means you cannot be able to use it when it comes to transactions that relate to that feature. So if that one is done, you're okay, you have confirmed everything, click on finish. Okay. And once you finish, you can see now, I had mentioned yesterday, you will be able to see your accounting, primary ledger here. The name of our primary ledger will be shown here. Before it was ledger option. Now it is the name of our primary ledger. Is there any question so far?
No question from my end.
So as we continue, you'll find the idea here is to finish the definition of accounting setup. So the next step, what now we'll do from the list that we have, is the order that we are following. So primary ledger. This one is done. But once now it has completed like this, there is the final step of completing. This is the third step. Okay, you're supposed to click on complete. And the system gives you a warning. Okay, the system gives you a warning. You are about to complete your accounting setup. So you remember completing accounting setup. It was the third step. That is third primary ledger. This will save your setup options and prevents the deletion of certain components. So, such as legal entities, balancing segment values, and reporting currency. Do you wish to continue? Okay, we have not defined this, so that's why I was going to this list, so that now we can define the legal entity. We assign legal entity to the primary ledger, and also we assign balancing segment as well to the legal entity. So in our case here, we are supposed to finalize with the creation of legal entity. Okay, we create legal entity, then we assign the legal entity to the primary ledger. Then we assign the balancing segments to the legal entity. Then we complete our primary ledger. So this is the importance of having such a warning, because now the system will warn you that you are yet to complete, because you are yet to provide, or it reminds you you are yet to define some of these items or options. So we say no. Okay, once we say no, we go to legal entities. So under legal entity, we'll define our legal entity so that we can come and add it here. So the process of assigning or adding legal entity or assigning legal entity to primary ledger is first of all defining it, then you come and add it through this feature. Okay, so we go to legal entities. So under legal entity, you have options. The system will always be giving you an option to search, as obvious, for what is existing and to create a new, of course, item that is not existing. So in this case, we need our legal entity. So we click on create legal entity. From our multi-org explanation, this is what we are defining. Okay, this is what we are defining, and we said you can create as much legal entity as the registration of businesses that are in that maybe organization. So if you have as many registration which are recognized legally, you can have as many legal entity as possible, as that rather. So I wanted just to mention that for the purpose of understanding where we are. So we defined business group. Now we have defined the primary ledger. Although we have not completed, we will complete once we assign the legal entity and balancing segment to legal entity. Then we will go ahead and create the operating unit, create the inventory organization, and so on. So in this case, this is the window for creation of legal entity, whereby we will use the country that our business is registered in. So in this case, it is Kenya. If you just type, the system will tell you whether it exists or not. Okay, here it is. Okay. Then you provide the legal entity name. The legal entity, this is the name that the business has legally been registered with. For instance, you might find the business legal name that has been registered with. It's not the ones that probably it is in the public domain in terms of doing business. So you might find maybe there is some coining of the name that is in the registered business versus what is in the face of the people, or what the public is saying when it comes to business, conducting business. So in this case, you're supposed to provide the legal entity that is being registered legally to identify this business. So in our case, we can say TAD Limited. Okay. And if the organization name is different from what the registered or legal entity name is, you can provide. In this case, we will use the same. Okay. Then you can provide the legal entity identifier. If there is any other identifier apart from maybe probably the registration number for the purpose of identification, you can provide it here. So like for instance, you can say TAD 1208. Okay. You say TAD 1208. I'm assuming there is no difference. Huh? So you provide that information. Okay. Then here you're supposed to provide legal address. Legal address, now these are the addresses that are known for this legal entity, and probably the ones that have been registered. These addresses are important because they are the one which will be used in terms of communication. Assuming like you are sending or you're receiving some information or some goods from a certain, let's for instance say from your supplier, they will use this legal address to locate you. And also this legal address will be appearing into your documentation when you are sending that document from the system. So for instance, if it's the PO or purchase order that you are sending to a supplier so that they can supply goods, this legal address is the one that should be appearing in that purchase order document. So it is very much important to have it correct. When you're doing the implementation, it's important to have it correct. That is from the business, so that when the business is start conducting business, the information that they have here is the ones that will be representing them correct. So if there is no any existing address, if there is existing address that it's relatable to this, you can select. And if there isn't, you can always create. Okay. So in our case, there isn't. Select create new address. And address name is maybe, you can say it is, let's say maybe Parklands, Nairobi. Okay, just a name. The address format is Kenya. Then address line 1, you will provide the mandatory fields. Address line 1 is TAD Nairobi. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Already the country is defaulting from the information that we have already provided. That is this one of the territory. And with that, if everything is okay, these are the information obviously you can provide if the business wants to have it. then you can apply. You can as well save and add details if you still want to do some amendments. The system will tell you, you have successfully created a new legal entity, TAD Limited. Okay, and now you go back to the page for creation of legal entity. So if you want to see what you have created, you can try to see whether it can pop out through provision of the parameters that are here, which is one is the country, and you click on go. So you see the system is showing there is more than one legal entity that has been established. Okay, and I know of this one. Okay, and so you can be able to open it and see more details on it. So what happens is that the system create another copy of the same, but it's give it a different legal type. One is legal entity and the other one is establishment, of which will not dwell much on it. The idea here was only how to create the legal entity. Any question? That's how we create the legal entity, and you can query it either with the name. We click on go. I'm not seeing anything. See, I'm getting an error. But if I say tag, click on go, system will display the name of the legal entity that has these initials, that is tag legal entity. So always make sure once you create something and you have saved it, you can go and query it again to confirm that you have successfully saved it or created it. So once that's done, we go back to accounting setup. Okay, and we query our primary ledger. It is that. Okay, it's still in. Status is in progress. Click on update. Now here we can assign our legal entity to our primary ledger. We can assign our legal entity to our primary ledger through clicking add legal entity. Once you click on add legal entity, you click it again. And now here you can search your legal entity. And our legal entity is TAD Limited. You can see, we can be able to see it from here. You click on select or the checkbox, and you see select. So once you selected it, or once you have selected it, you can go ahead now and apply. Okay, and after applying it, see now we have it here. Before we never had anything here, and I said you can assign as many legal entity to one primary ledger, but once you assign it, you cannot assign it to another primary ledger. Once you assign one legal entity to one primary ledger, you cannot assign that legal entity to another primary ledger. I hope that one is clear. because there are some people who get confused on that, whether it's, are we assigning the primary ledger or are we assigning the legal entity to which or to whatever we are assigning to. It's very good to understand we assign the legal entity to the primary ledger, and one legal entity can only be assigned once in one primary ledger. It cannot be assigned another time in another primary ledger. When you assign it, you cannot go and query it for another primary ledger to assign. I hope that one is clear. Okay. So we have done this as well. I've defined legal entity. Okay. So what we are supposed to do here, and also we have assigned legal entity to primary ledger. Before assigning our responsibility to primary ledger, we are supposed to assign balancing segment value. Segment value to, in short, this one we call it BSB, to legal. So this is telling the legal entity the balancing segments that it should refer to for the purpose of giving that, you see, the moment we are assigning the balancing segment value, the balancing segment value, remember, it's the value that we have the top reporting capability in that organization or in our chart of accounts. So we, for the purpose of reporting and identification, remember, legal entity is the top or the highest item you can identify in your organization with. So what happens is that this balancing segment, you equate it with the top level of ownership, because legal entity, because we create it for the purpose of, as far the registration of that organization, the ownership of that organization is in the level of legal entity. The same case, the balancing segment, being the top of the segments or the most highest segment we can be able to report with, it is in the same level for the purpose of reporting, and that's why we assign it to legal entity. So with that, after assigning the the legal entity to the primary ledger, we have the function here for balancing segment values. Update balancing segment value. So again here, you were supposed to come and click on update balancing segment values. Okay. And we can see the value set is third company. Already it can be able to identify the value set. But now we are not interested with this. It's only that it's related to what we want. We want the balancing segment values under third company. So what do? We come and click on add balancing segment value. And here we want the value, click on go. I hope you remember the segments values that we have under company. Company segment. Under company segments, that's the values that are assigned to balancing segment qualifier. And that's why we can be able to see in this level. So if we could have assigned the natural account balancing segment, flex field qualifier, we could be seeing other things here related to the accounts. But because we assigned the balancing segment flex field qualifier, that's why we can be able to see these companies in this level. And this is where I was trying to explain the features or the characteristics that are acquired once you assign a certain flex field qualifier to a certain segment. And this is one of them. So we can be able to see the balancing segment values in this level because we assigned the balancing segment qualifier to the company segment. I hope it's very clear. Here you can choose any because they all have the same character or characteristics. You can choose any, but in our case, we can choose the first one. You can even choose to select all of them, but we only need one, minimum of one. Click on select. Okay. And once you select it, we can be able to see the value here. It's one. Description, when it is started, okay, and probably when it can end. You can end it and date it. That's why we have this field. Okay. So once this one you have provided, you can go ahead and click on apply. So once you click on apply, you can see we have it here. Initially it was blank. We never had anything here under balancing segment value until we update it through this segment. Is there any question so far? We are defining the primary ledger, or we are doing the accounting option setup. Again, this is a one-time setup, so it's not something that you will keep on coming and assigning balancing segment now and then. No, it's not something that you will keep on coming and changing. Again, there are things you'll find like you cannot remove once we click on complete. Once you click on complete, there are some features you cannot edit, you cannot update, and we will see. So with that, we don't have anything else left in terms of defining our accounting options for now. So I want us to go ahead and complete. And through completion, we click on this button. Once we click on complete, the system gives you a warning that you are about to complete the accounting setup for third primary ledger. This will save your setup options and prevent the deletion of certain components. So this is very important. There are things that once you complete, you cannot delete, you cannot change. So such as legal entities, balancing segment values, and reporting currency. You wish to continue. So this is for the purpose of your keenness and to be sure that whatever you have provided is correct information and it's what will continue to be used by the business you're implementing. So we don't have any objection. We go ahead and say yes. System gives you a confirmation message. You have just completed the accounting setup. That is third primary ledger. The general ledger accounting setup program has been submitted. Please review concurrent request ID. Is the ID. You can copy it make sure this request completes successfully before you enter transactions. Okay, so you can return to accounting setups. So our primary ledger accounting setup has been defined and it's completed and has been submitted for completion. You see the status now has changed. It was in progress, now it is completed. But there is one advice that we've been given, whereby we have been given the request ID, which you usually search through view, request, find. So we were told to make sure that this request has completed normally, without any error. You can see this is the same code that we have copied. Let me paste the one that we had copied. Then I copy this one, Control C, and paste it here. So it's the same. So our primary ledger and accounting setup is completed successfully. And with the creation of the primary ledger, remember we said you can be able now to book transactions. You can be able to book transactions in the GL and in sub-ledger accounts. But that one is not done in terms of, all is not done in terms of the setup. There are a few other things that we have to make sure that they have been set so that we can be able to start transactions. And looking from the accounting structure that we are working with, I mean the multi-org structure that we are implementing with, we have done primary ledger. This one is done. We can write here, done. Business group also is done. Okay. Can give it some green color. Symbolize successfully done. Legal entity also done. Okay. And now we are supposed to define operating unit. We are not done with operating unit. So in our order of doing things, this one is done. We need to assign all responsibility to primary ledger. Why? Why do we assign our responsibility to primary ledger? So all this responsibility, all the transactions has to be reported through the main ledger, which is the primary ledger. So if we don't assign the primary ledger to the responsibilities will not have anywhere to deposit their transactions when it comes to sending transaction to the GL. Remember we talked about all the transactions that has been done in the P2P cycle. We talked about how at the end of the day, all those transactions has to be communicated to the general ledger. So for us to create a connection, and this connection in technical language we call it integration. Okay, for us to create an integration between the primary ledger and these responsibilities that we have defined, all this responsibility, these ones, all this responsibility that we have defined, we have to connect this primary ledger to the responsibilities. And I talked about profile option. So let me copy this. We left at number 13. Where is 13? So this one that we had now in the March, it was more of a process. So I did not explain anything, but I explained there how we create the primary ledger with the 4 C's. The creation of the legal entity, it had not much explanation because it's more of a straightforward process. Assigning the legal entity to primary ledger also never needed much, explanation. Assigning balancing segment, the same case. So when it comes to assigning our responsibility to primary ledger, maybe I can copy them for you not to lose track. Come here, press this one. So all these are done. All these 3, 14 to 16 are done. Okay. And this car is too short. Okay. So we are in assigning our responsibility to primary ledger. So what we said is that we usually use a profile option or rather we usually use an adhesive or a glue to stick something to some other place. For instance, you want to stick a notice on the door of the entrance of a class or on a notice board. You will need a pin or a thumb pin to stick or to place that notice on the notice board. So the same case in the system, you'll find for you to connect in this case or in this example of notice and the notice board and the pin is what is connecting or integrating, we may be a bit technical, integrating the notice board and the notice that is in the paper. So that paper, for it to be connected with the notice board, there is a pin. That pin is what is connecting the paper and the notice board. In other words, we can say the pin is integrating the notice board and the paper, if it makes any sense. I know you understand what I'm trying to say. But when it comes to the system, we said that we usually use profile options. Profile option or options. Okay. And we have so many profile options based on what you need to enable. You can use the profile option to enable, or you can use the profile option to connect, to add some characteristics. Even in enabling, it means you are making that there is something you are making to happen, which without the profile option could not happen. So you are enabling. The same case through profile option, you are connecting. Through the connection of one feature to the other, you bring an integration, and that's what I'm referring to as a connection. In the system, we call it integration. You integrate, but it's not that so much technical, because sometimes you'll find it's just a functional way. It doesn't have a lot of technical writing code and all that. It's just a functional way of bringing two functions together through profile option. So when it comes to assigning responsibilities to primary ledger, we usually use one profile option called GL ledger name. With the GL ledger name, we connect or we bring connection of the responsibilities to the primary ledger. Is there any question? I hope I'm not confusing you. Is there any question? So we have our primary ledger and we have our responsibility. So is there anyone who can remember how we navigate to profile options window? I hope this connection is clear. We are connecting the primary ledger to our responsibility, or all responsibility connecting to our primary ledger. Anyone who can remember the navigation?
Go to system administrator responsibility.
Responsibility. Data. Okay. So that navigation. You can close this. So you see, initially we were experiencing the challenge of the system not complete the programs. So this is what has delayed us, but we fixed. You see, now we are not experiencing it. It's good to mention that. So we navigate to change responsibility, or we switch the responsibility. Again, you can switch the responsibility from here, and also from under file, there is switch responsibility. Okay, so those two are more than one way of killing a rat. So we have our system administrator responsibility here. You select. Okay, next.
Profile and then system.
Profile. System. Yeah, so this is the window for profile options. So we call them options because they are more, there is so many profiles, and you can be able to use them based on the interest that you are working on. So in this case, we use the profile option name called GL ledger name. So in this case, you can come and say GL, percentage. Dot percentage. And again, we are assigning this responsibility to, we are assigning responsibility to this profile, to the primary ledger. So we are supposed to provide the responsibility in the field for responsibility, whereby you can start with the first one, and you just need to type a few letters, and all our responsibility shall display. So in this case, you can select the first one, cash management. And the moment you select, you can see now the system automatically auto check the checkbox for responsibility. So then you click on find. So there are so many options. Huh? There are so many options that we need to check which is the option that we want to assign to. So there is some message here that is cannot set insert allowed property for this. Okay. System sometimes it will be giving you some messages that probably you don't want to consume. Okay. Like this one, I don't understand what it wants, but we'll check later. All these are profile options. Okay, what we can do to shorten the process, although I'm seeing like we are almost to get to letter L. Okay, you can shift page up on your keyboard and you provide a more maybe specific name like ledger. Click on find. This name, the naming has to be correct. I might find maybe there is some space here. Confined. Okay. We have to get it correct. Okay, this is something I've thought about. Disable site and profile values. Click on find. So I'm suspecting the profile option has not been enabled. So I cannot be able to see it here, but I'll check. I'll check and advise on the same. I don't know why it's missing. Why should it be missing here? So I'll check for that profile option, and probably we can pick it from there tomorrow. It's almost 2 hours since we started, and we can call it a day. Any question?
None from my end.
All right. So if there's no question, probably we can connect tomorrow.